Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we are jumping straight into the brand new, much anticipated Anno 117. It just launched, November 13th?
That's right.
And it's supposed to be this, grand economic simulator. You design these incredible, intricate supply chains.
Yeah.
But the community has already found this paradox right at the heart of the game.
A huge one.
It turns out, when it comes to warfare, swords, armor, the essentials, it is just financially a terrible idea to make them yourself.
Yeah, that paradox is the perfect way into this whole thing. And that's our mission for this deep dive.
Yeah.
To look at this specific economic loophole, that it's just flat out cheaper to buy your weapons than to make them.
Okay.
And then we're going to look at the ripples it caused. Because this isn't new to the franchise, and the community debates it sparked this time.
Yeah.
They went everywhere. We're talking visual assets, historical accuracy, even accusations of AI art.
Okay, let's unpack this, starting with the simple math of why players are choosing to be shoppers instead of producers. So the first thing everyone on the forum seemed to notice is pretty simple. Why on earth would I build coal mines and iron smelters and all the infrastructure?
All that work.
Right, when instead players are just putting in these perpetual buy orders at their shipyards for swords and armor. And it turns out that's the cheapest, easiest way to build up a military.
And this choice, it really flips the game's challenge on its head. It's all driven by a concept that veteran Anno players know really well, marginal costs, or, as the German sources call it, Grenzkosten.
That sounds super technical, but it's the key, isn't it?
It is absolutely the key. You have to understand why it's so powerful. So you look at the raw materials for a sword, right? A bit of iron, some coal. The direct cost seems low.
Seems cheap enough.
But in Anno, the cost is never just the inputs. That sword production line needs workers. And every single worker you add to your economy, they immediately create new demands on everything else.
Ah, so it's a hidden cost.
It's a massive hidden cost. If you hire, say, 50 more iron workers, you suddenly need 50 more servings of bread,
Okay.
50 more sets of clothing, 50 more mugs of beer. So now you have to expand those production chains, which takes more workers who need more stuff. It drives up the whole cost of living.
So the cost of just supporting the people who make the iron makes the final sword absurdly expensive.
Exactly. It inflates that marginal cost to a ridiculous point, and suddenly the fixed price from an NPC trader looks like a massive bargain.
Wait, so players are building these huge agricultural empires just to get cash for a military shopping spree? That completely inverts the game. And if this has been a thing since Anno 1800, like our notes say, why isn't this fixed?
That's the million-dollar question. The community seems to think it's baked so deep into the core code, if you tweak those cost curves, you might just break the whole tax model. So it's easier to leave some goods underpriced with NPCs.
Like the famous iron beams.
The infamous iron beams from Anno 1800, that was the original sin, you could say. Trying to make those early in the game was a noob trap. That's what players called it. It would just lead you straight to bankruptcy.
Okay, that is a critical tip for anyone starting out. But there has to be a drawback to just buying everything. Right?
There is one, yes.
Yeah.
You're relying entirely on a fixed external supply. The sources all point out that the NPC traders, they restock, but it's slow.
So you can't scale up quickly.
Exactly. If you need a huge army tomorrow or a ton of materials for a big expansion, you can't just wait for the next boat to arrive, especially if that supply is only in one region, like Albion. It's efficient, but it's not agile.
So if we've established that you buy your swords, not make them, that shifts the whole game. It's not about vertical integration anymore. It's about mastering trade. Which brings us to what you should be selling.
Right. If you've got this big shopping bill for weapons, you need a ton of cash flow. And the community sources have a pretty clear consensus on the best cash crops.
Let me guess, wine is on the list.
Always. Wine is a classic high-tier seller. But what's really interesting is how profitable some super low-tech stuff is. We're talking charcoal and tiles.
Really?
Yeah, you can sell them to NPCs like Diane for around 1,000 a pop. It's just steady, easy money.
Wow.
Olive oil is another big one. The production chain is super short, so its internal costs are low, and everyone seems to need it, so you can always sell the surplus. And surprisingly, bread is pretty solid seller, especially out of the Latium region.
But this is where it gets really interesting, because it's not just about selling goods you make. Some players have found loops that they basically print money.
We're talking pure arbitrage. The sources lay it out perfectly. The watch trade. You buy watches from the NPC Archibald for 8,320.
Like
Then you just sail them across the map and sell those exact same watches to another NPC, Katima, for 13,000.
13.
Yeah.
That's a 56% profit margin
Yeah.
for zero work. That is staggering.
It is. And once you scale that up, money is never, ever an issue again. And this is what leads to those player critiques, that the whole trade system feels, broken or too cheap.
It stops being a city builder and becomes a race to find the most broken trade route.
It does. And it's not just the watches. The Docklands feature is another big part of this. Players say it lets them get infinite amounts of high-tier stuff like marble through passive trading. You never have to build the production chain yourself.
So this is where the big design debate comes in. Is this just bad balancing, or is it intentional?
That's the question, isn't it? Is it a flaw? Or, as some players argue, is it a kind of masterpiece? A design choice to show you that true stability doesn't come from perfect internal optimization.
But from mastering the external market.
Exactly. It's a game that suggests maximum happiness and tax revenue come from market control, not from self-sufficiency. It elevates the merchant above the manufacturer.
So it's secretly a trading simulator in a city builder's clothing.
It seems to reward market savvy a lot more than internal efficiency, for sure.
Okay, let's make a big pivot here. We've been talking about this kind of broken economy, and it's all facilitated by these external NPC traders. And one of those NPCs, in particular, became a lightning rod for a totally different kind of community storm.
That's right. The Roman centurion in the trade box, the guy selling you the cheap swords, he came under this intense player scrutiny. And at first, it was just funny. It was all about his visual design.
The level of detail here is amazing. Players were saying his shoulders look shrunk, which makes him look soft.
Not exactly the vibe you want from a Roman centurion.
Not at all.
People were comparing him to a vending machine or a guard from the game Morrowind. The pop culture jokes were flying. I saw comparisons to the merchant from Resident Evil 4, even Pussy Bonpensiero from The Sopranos. The consensus was just, he looks weird.
But that discussion moved very quickly from just aesthetics to historical representation. The fact that this vendor was a black Roman centurion stationed up in Albion, of all places, sparked a huge debate. And we have to be clear, we're just reporting on this debate, which got pretty heated. Absolutely. So the arguments for it being historically possible, they centered on a few facts, right? The Roman Empire controlled a lot of North Africa. People of African descent were definitely present in the empire, both free and enslaved. And the military was a known path for social mobility. So non-locals, including African auxiliary units, they served all over the empire.
And that brought up the whole discussion around Emperor Septimius Severus. Some users claim Severus, who was from modern-day Libya, was African, and that during his rule, he brought more Africans into the administration.
Right, shifting the empire's focus.
But then you have strong counterclaims in the sources saying Severus was not black, and that calling him that is a modern racial idea projected onto the path.
It feels like a classic case of the community digging up history to either justify or reject a character model. But it seems like a lot of veteran players landed on the idea that Anno has always been, history vague.
That was a common sentiment. One user pointed out that the female Celtic rebel leader is also anachronistic, but you need a Celtic rebel leader for the game to work. So for many, the core gameplay was just more important than perfect accuracy.
Which leads to the final piece of this visual debate.
Yeah.
The AI accusations. Because the Centurion model looked a little off, some players immediately concluded it had to be AI generated.
Right. They started pointing to what they saw as evidence.
And what were those specific flaws? What was the proof?
The arguments focused on these little symmetrical errors you sometimes see with AI images. People claimed the armor was asymmetrical with two different gold designs on it. They pointed to what they called faulty blending of the image in the trade box, and even incorrectly tied chin straps.
The chin strap.
The chin straps. Things that suggest a lack of human polish.
But there was pushback on that too, right?
Oh, for sure. A lot of people argued that it's clearly an animated 3D model, not a flat AI image. They said accusing the devs of using AI over a chin strap was just grasping at straws. But, and this is the key detail, the developers have reportedly confirmed the use of AI in some art assets for the game. So that just left this lingering, unresolvable question for the community about whether this specific character was one of them.
Wow. This has been a really fascinating dive. We've gone from the core economics, why building swords is a bad idea, to these huge trading loopholes. That 56% margin on watches is just insane.
It's game-breaking.
and all the way to these complex debates about art, history, and AI.
So what does this all mean for you, the player?
Well, the sources make it pretty clear. In a game that looks like a complex production simulator, the best path to wealth and stability is not actually building those perfect production chains.
It's about exploiting the market.
It's about mastering external market inefficiencies. It's a game where being a great trader often beats being a great manufacturer.
And that really does leave us with a final provocative thought for you to chew on. If the most efficient way to win in a game about production is to skip production entirely, what does that say about the real challenge the game is asking you to solve? Is the goal really population management, or is it mastery of the global arbitrage market? Something for you to think about on your next trade run. That is all the time we have for this deep dive. We hope this leaves you feeling well-informed and probably a lot richer in your next Anno 117 session. We'll see you next time.